Friends, 2024 has been a strange year for video gaming so far. We've had some high highs, some low lows, and some very strange decision making and some incredibly heartbreaking events as well. It made me take a step back, reevaluate my priorities and how I choose to spend my time gaming, and how I have been spending my time gaming in 2024, and I came to one conclusion that I honestly haven't even thought twice about. I sold my Xbox Series X and I haven't looked back.
You what?
Yep, I sold my Xbox Series X. It's been over a week now and I honestly haven't even thought about it.
But I loved her, you monster.
Welcome back to Space Castle, where it's our mission to explore all things nerdy in the universe. I'm your Captain DT, and
No, we're not glossing over this. How could you? She was the love of my life. Now X is my ex, and I didn't even get to say goodbye.
Goldblum, it was just a game console, and one that I wasn't even using anymore. I didn't know you had such an attachment to it.
It? And ooh, I suppose I'm just a toaster to you.
No, buddy, I didn't even know the two of you talked.
I did the talking, and yes, she was a great listener. And then we'd sit quietly for hours watching the stars go by. We were in love.
Goldblum, the Xbox Series X has been unplugged for like 6 months. I even canceled my Game Pass subscription a while back. So, things have not been great for the Xbox series of consoles lately. Back in May of 2023, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, did an interview with Kinda Funny Games where he literally conceded defeat to Sony and Nintendo. Spencer is quoted in the interview saying, "We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us." And that set a pretty miserable tone externally, and I'm sure internally as well. Telling the entire world that you're in third place in a race of 3 and you've got no plans or ability to catch up was really encouraging to hear after being an early adopter of the Xbox Series X. You know, after I fought off scalpers online to buy one of the f***ing things after months of looking and waiting. Spencer went on to say, "I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way." And putting a nice bow on it, he added, "We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation." The thing is, Nintendo has always been behind in terms of hardware and functionality of their consoles. You can use the Xbox Series or the PlayStation 5 as a keystone of your home theater just as well as playing the latest games. Nintendo has been strictly focused on games, and mostly first-party games at that. There hasn't been strong third-party support for a Nintendo console since maybe the Super Nintendo. And their hardware looks and feels like it's always a full generation behind Xbox and PlayStation. Now, I am no graphics hound, but Sony and Microsoft are so far ahead of Nintendo in that regard that it's not even funny. But Nintendo kills it consistently with the likes of Zelda, and Mario, and Pokemon, and Animal Crossing. It actually kinda really is about going off and building great games. The Xbox series just doesn't really have any. Sorry, Starfield, you kinda sucked and nobody really likes you that much. But these statements came from Spencer while Microsoft was in the midst of hugely engaging in the arms race that has been the buying up of independent development studios. Throughout the 2020s, both Microsoft and Sony have been on an absolute tear, acquiring as many studios as they could so that the other guys couldn't have them. And then, Microsoft kicked off 2024 in January by laying off 1,900 employees at Activision Blizzard and ZeniMax just 3 months after they acquired the former of those companies for almost $67 billion. That's billion with a B. And now in May of 2024, Microsoft has closed down a huge chunk of the ZeniMax group, which it acquired in 2021. Alpha Dog Studios, Tango Gameworks, Roundhouse Games, and Arcade Austin have been shut down or stripped and rolled into other sections of the Microsoft Xbox conglomerate. And I don't even know how many people have lost their jobs this time around. Tango Gameworks just found awesome success with 2023's Hi-Fi Rush. I do not know a single person that played it that didn't immediately fall in love with it. It was a successful, fresh new IP, and that studio has been rewarded by being decimated. The general consensus amongst gamers and journalists and content creators out there is that Microsoft is crushing the smaller studios it's buying up in order to secure their intellectual properties and obliterate potential competition in the form of allowing those studios to ever be independent again and developing games for other consoles. William Strife here on YouTube put together a great video detailing the reasons why Microsoft and other large companies would do such things. He explains the situation far more eloquently than I could. I'll put a link to it in the description as well as an info card for the video here. So, why is Microsoft buying all these studios just to turn around and shut them down, while at the same time moaning about not being able to compete with Sony and Nintendo's games output? Well, maybe they're fucking morons, I don't know. I'm no fanboy of any particular company. I've always thought the console wars as far back as the 80s and 90s were fun, and ultimately just made for good competition that resulted in better games for us as consumers. My family growing up owned a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis in the 90s and had a healthy library of games for both. When I was in high school, I had a PlayStation, a Dreamcast, and a GameCube. And when I became a young adult out on my own, I rolled the Xbox into the family as well. Back in the day, the console wars meant trying to one-up each other with great new products and games. Now, it just means trying to bleed the industry dry in a war of attrition. I just really love video games, and it's heartbreaking and confusing to see one of the big three companies complain and look for sympathy and say they just can't keep up when they're simultaneously strangling the industry and snuffing out the development of good games.
Oh wow, when you put it like that, f that, I can do better.
And so I sold my Xbox Series X, which I was really excited to get in the first place. And I haven't felt a twinge of guilt or regret since. And the decision didn't come strictly from morals either. I know that Nintendo and Sony can be just as weird and crooked and greedy. I have no illusions about fair play and ethics in business. But what it ultimately came down for me personally is the fact that I just haven't touched my Xbox Series X in months. The exclusives just aren't interesting to me. Game Pass is a novelty that I think most people honestly love the idea of more than they actually love the feature itself. To me, Game Pass is largely shovelware that no one really cares about. And stuff that people would actually like to care about sucks, like Starfield or Halo Infinite. And so it was time to move on from what became a very large, heavy, and honestly pretty sleek looking dust collector on my shelf. I've now got some extra money in my bank account. I've got one less subscription taking money out of that bank account every month. And because I see Microsoft being more interested in maintaining profit margins by crushing the industry instead of working to contribute to it, I can better reconcile my love for the art created by this weird, oftentimes ugly and shady industry.
I just don't know how I'm going to spend my nights now. I'm so lonely.
Goldblum, have you met the PS5?
こんにちは。
I mean, she's actually plugged in, so you might actually find starting up a conversation with her a bit more rewarding.
You know that I don't speak Japanese.
Goldblum, you're an AI with direct connection to the internets across the universe. You can learn Japanese in a microsecond.
Oh, yes. Oh, you're right. One moment. Konnichiwa. Kyo no anata wo totemo suteki desu ne. Anata no koto o moto shiratai to omote imasu. Yes, oh, yes.
ありがとう。あなたは非常にハンサムに見えます。日本の RPG をプレイしてお互いのことをもっと知りませんか？
Yes, I would. F you, Phil Spencer. Yes, Yes,
Well, I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Space Castle. What are your thoughts on the current state of things with Microsoft? Have you thought about moving on from your Xbox Series console like I did, or did you see the writing on the wall early on and not even bother buying one? What do you think Microsoft could do to turn things around? Or can they? And do they even want to at this point? Leave a comment down below and let's talk about it. In the meantime, thank you so much for hanging out with me on Space Castle, where it's our mission to explore all things nerdy in the universe. And if you wouldn't mind, please do me a big favor and like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend if you enjoyed it. And special thanks go out, as always, to our Galactonaut crew at patreon.com/SpaceCastleShow for their continued support.
ゴールドブラム、あなたはとても面白くてセクシーです。
Alright, I may have made a huge mistake here.
Yes.
Looks like I'm gonna be sleeping with earplugs tonight.
Yes.
ははは、ははは。
This is your Captain DT. Signing off.
Oh my. Oh, yes, oh my.